Hi everyone, this is Michelle from Suzon Spice and Everything Nice coming to you with another recipe called Ble. Made with bulgur wheat, I present to you my version on a classic Haitian staple. Now as we go over the ingredients, details on the amounts will be located on my website listed in the description box. We have a few cloves of garlic crushed, salt pork. This is an optional ingredient which can be left out, but it lends great flavor to a bland grain. Our star of the show, Ble, aka bulgur wheat, diced onions, butter, Goya adobo all-purpose seasoning, 1 can of pinto beans along with 1 can of coconut milk, 1 habanero pepper for our heat lovers, thyme, and although I do not have them pictured here, you will also need 1 package of Goya Suzon and salt to taste. Here, I have a package of salt pork, which you can usually find in the meat section of your grocery store. Again, this is totally optional, but I highly recommend giving it a try. It is much fattier than bacon, and a lot of salt is used as a preservative, hence why it's called salt pork. Now we're going to cut off a portion of the fat along with the skin. This will be important as the whole top layer is a tough skin. We don't want all of the fat removed because some of it is what will be used to render oil for the rest of the recipe. If you decide to omit the salt pork, have on hand 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil. For this, I'm going to only use about half of the package. After removing about 1/4 inch of the skin and fat, I'm going to dice it up into smaller pieces. As I've mentioned before, this portion here is part of the skin and fat that we have to remove and discard. In the salt pork, you'll want to rinse the meat with plain water to rid some of the salt. Then, I also shredded the meat, or basically blanched it with hot boiling water and drained it again. Although I did shred the salt pork off camera, this should be a step that you do not miss. Now I'm going to drain my can of pinto beans. You can use black beans, which I have in the past, but I prefer the taste of pinto beans with Ble. I'm going to drain it into a quart measuring cup because I plan on using the juices in the can as part of the liquid for my Ble. To that same quart measuring cup, add in the can of coconut milk and additional water until you hit 4 cups. Next, we have our pot on medium-high heat, to which we will add our rinsed and drained salt pork. As it cooks, all the liquid will be released, and then in a few minutes as the liquid dries off, it'll begin to render its own oil. You want to stir occasionally to keep it from burning. And that'll also help it dry up so that it can release its own oil. Once the salt pork is nicely browned in its own oil, go ahead and add in the diced onions. Now as a reminder, if you decided to omit the salt pork, add in the 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil prior to adding in the onions. You'll want to saute the onions until they're soft and translucent. Next, you'll add in some thyme and the minced garlic. You can choose to remove the thyme leaves from the branches if you prefer. I do it this way because I can also easily remove the stems at the end once the meal is completed. You'll go ahead and saute the garlic and thyme, stirring occasionally to fully incorporate. At this point, add in the drained pinto beans as well as the adobo Goya seasoning. You want to mix well and saute for about another minute or so to be able to incorporate all the flavors into the beans. Once heated through, pour in the quart of liquid, which is about 4 cups, consisting of the drained pinto bean liquid, the can of coconut milk, and water. You'll also need to add an additional 1 cup of water for a total of 5 cups of liquid to the pot. Sprinkle in 1 packet of Goya Suzon, and if you love some heat, you can also throw in a habanero pepper. Now for a very mild heat index, you can go ahead and throw it in whole. For medium heat, you can pierce the pepper with a knife prior to throwing it in, and if you're the type who loves a nice burn, go ahead and slice that bad boy wide open. Then of course you'll want to mix thoroughly. At this point you can also sample the liquid and add salt and or more Goya adobo to taste, which I have done. Then you'll go ahead and cover the pot with its lid, increase the heat to high, and then allow it to come to a boil. As it comes to a boil, go ahead and wash or rinse out the bulgur wheat. Now, although I did not demonstrate this on camera, please do not skip this step. And I highly recommend rinsing it while waiting for the water to boil. If you rinse it too early, like when you're preparing all the ingredients in advance, it will absorb the water as it sits and it'll start to soften, leaving you with the really mushy ble once it's cooked. We like to refer to this as being pat, and nobody likes pot rice, nonetheless pat ble. So rinse it when you're ready to pour it in the pot. After adding in the greens and mixing thoroughly, I like to resample the liquid and add any additional salt to taste. You want to stir occasionally and allow the liquid to return to a boil and start to reduce. Once reduced by about half, I add in the butter and mix to incorporate. The rest is literally like cooking rice. Once the liquid has reached much closer to the level of the grains, I reduce the heat to medium and remove the habanero pepper. Once the liquid is nearly dry, cover the pot with its lid and reduce the heat down to a medium-low. Let it cook covered for about 20 to 25 minutes. Once it's ready, it'll look a little something like this. You'll remove the timestamps before serving, of course, and enjoy yourself a plate of perfectly cooked blé. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Again, you'll find the ingredient details on my website, SuzonSpice.com, and thank you for watching.